He sang in front of millions. He wore shiny clothes and moved like no one else. But before Elvis Presley became famous, he was just a quiet boy who loved watching movies. Sitting in dark theaters gave him peace and dreams. The world saw a superstar, but inside, he was still that small-town boy looking up to the big screen. He found strength in actors who made him feel understood. This story is not about his songs. It is about who he admired when the lights went down. Before he inspired others, these 7 actors inspired him in a powerful way. Before we dive into video, please subscribe our channel. Elvis Presley was born on January 8, 1935 in a small house in Tupelo, Mississippi. His family was very poor. His father, Vernon, did small jobs to earn money, but life was hard. They did not always have enough food or clothes. Sometimes, Elvis wore shirts made from flour sacks. From the very beginning, he knew how it felt to go without. One of the most painful moments in his life happened at birth. Elvis had a twin brother named Jesse Garon Presley, but Jesse was stillborn. Elvis grew up as the only child, but he always felt that something was missing. He often spoke about the loss of his brother and believed it left a deep emptiness in his heart. Elvis was a shy and quiet child. He did not have many friends. His classmates often laughed at his clothes and called him names. Music became his escape. He would sit alone, listening to gospel songs at church or watching his mother sing in the kitchen. But there was one more place that gave him comfort: the movie theater. For a few cents, he could sit in the dark and watch stories unfold. Cowboys, heroes, lovers, and rebels came to life on the screen. He dreamed of being one of them. Movies gave him something his real life did not: hope, adventure, and confidence. While others saw stars, Elvis saw guides, people who showed him how to carry himself, how to speak, and even how to walk with pride. He would later use this in his own style as a performer. Before he became the king of rock and roll, Elvis was a lonely boy with a heavy heart and a big dream, and cinema gave him the strength to keep dreaming. Now we talk about 7 actors in favorite list. Number 1, James Dean. James Dean was more than just a movie star to Elvis Presley, he was a mirror. When Elvis watched Rebel Without a Cause, he felt like he was watching himself. Dean played a troubled young man who did not fit in, who struggled with emotions, and who wanted to be understood. Elvis related to that deeply. He too came from a poor background, felt like an outsider, and had a quiet storm inside him that no one could see. Elvis once said that Dean's performance felt so real, it hurt to watch. He saw truth in Dean's eyes, a sadness behind the cool attitude. That honesty made Elvis respect him even more. Dean did not try to act, he simply became the role. This inspired Elvis in his own acting career. He wanted to be like Dean, raw, natural, and unforgettable. Even in the way James Dean dressed, Elvis saw something powerful. The simple white t-shirt, jeans, and messy hair became symbols of rebellion. Elvis copied that style in his early days, mixing it with his own charm. But the connection was not just about image, it was about emotion. Elvis felt like Dean was someone who carried pain but made it look beautiful, someone who felt deeply but stayed strong. James Dean died young, just like a burning star falling too fast. Elvis never forgot him. To Elvis, Dean was not just an actor. He was a reminder that being misunderstood could still be powerful. Number 2, Marlon Brando. Elvis Presley greatly admired Marlon Brando. To him, Brando was not just an actor, he was a force. Elvis was amazed by how Brando could say so much without speaking loudly. He had a coolness that felt real, not forced. In movies like The Wild One and A Streetcar Named Desire, Brando played characters who were tough on the outside but deeply emotional on the inside. That mix of strength and sensitivity inspired Elvis. Elvis loved how Brando stood out from everyone else in Hollywood. He did not care about rules or what people thought. He acted with honesty. He walked, talked, and dressed in his own way. Elvis saw that as powerful. He began to carry himself with the same kind of confidence, not loud, but strong and sure. Brando's acting style also changed how Elvis saw movies. Before Brando, acting was often stiff and formal. Brando made it feel human. He brought depth to every line, every glance. Elvis studied him closely, learning how emotions could be shown without words. This helped Elvis in his own film career later on. Even in interviews, Elvis spoke with respect about Brando. He called him a genius and said he was one of the most real actors he had ever seen. For Elvis, Marlon Brando was more than a star. He was a symbol of courage, creativity, and individuality. He showed Elvis that being different, could become your greatest strength. Number 3. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis held a special place in Elvis Presley's heart. He was charming, confident, and full of energy, qualities Elvis admired deeply. Unlike other serious actors, Curtis had a playful side that made audiences smile. He could do comedy, romance, and action, all with the same sparkle. Elvis saw in him a perfect balance of talent and fun. One of the things Elvis loved most about Tony Curtis was his background. Curtis was not born into fame. He came from a poor immigrant family in New York City and faced many hardships growing up. That story hit home for Elvis, who had also come from poverty in Mississippi. Knowing that Curtis worked his way up to stardom gave Elvis hope. It reminded him that dreams could come true, even for boys with nothing. Elvis especially liked how Curtis moved on screen, with flair, style, and confidence. He once said that Tony had the kind of walk and voice that made people stop and watch. Elvis began to copy some of that smoothness in his own style, mixing it with his southern charm. He also admired Curtis' ability to connect with audiences. Whether he was making people laugh in Some Like It Hot or playing a dramatic role in The Defiant Ones, Curtis made every role feel real. To Elvis, Tony Curtis was not just a movie star. He was proof that charisma, hard work, and a little sparkle could take you all the way to the top and still make you smile. Number 4. Robert Mitchum. Elvis Presley admired Robert Mitchum for his calm, powerful presence. Mitchum was not loud or flashy, but he had a natural confidence that filled the screen. He could walk into a scene, say just a few words, and still steal the moment. Elvis found that deeply impressive. He believed that real power did not need to shout, and Mitchum proved that. What Elvis liked most was Mitchum's mystery. He often played characters who were strong, silent, and unpredictable. In movies like Out of the Past and The Night of the Hunter, Mitchum's deep voice and slow movements made him unforgettable. Elvis admired how Mitchum could say more with a glance than most actors could say with a full speech. Mitchum's style also influenced how Elvis carried himself in public. He tried to move and speak with the same relaxed strength. Even in interviews, Elvis kept things calm and smooth, just like Mitchum. He did not try too hard, and that made him even more interesting. Elvis also respected Mitchum for not caring about fame. Mitchum never chased the spotlight. He did his job and lived life on his own terms. That attitude impressed Elvis, who often felt trapped by his own fame. To Elvis, Robert Mitchum was not just a cool actor. He was someone who showed that strength can be quiet, confidence can be calm, and true talent does not need to ask for attention. It earns it by being real. Number 5. Montgomery Clift. Elvis Presley felt a deep emotional connection to Montgomery Clift. Clift was known for his soft voice, expressive eyes, and tender way of acting. He did not play loud or tough characters. Instead, he showed quiet pain, deep feelings, and inner struggles. Elvis saw himself in that. He understood what it felt like to carry emotions that no one else could see. In films like A Place in the Sun and From Here to Eternity, Clift played men who were sensitive and often broken inside. He brought honesty to every role, showing weakness and strength at the same time. Elvis admired that. He believed it took real courage to show that kind of softness on screen. Clift's acting was not just skill, it was heart. Elvis would sometimes watch his performances alone, studying how he moved, how he looked away, how he stayed quiet instead of shouting. That kind of emotion touched Elvis deeply. It made him feel less alone in his own quiet pain. What also made Clift special to Elvis was how he stayed true to himself. Even when Hollywood wanted strong, bold heroes, Clift stayed different. He followed his own path, even when it was hard. That inspired Elvis, who also felt like he never fully fit in. To Elvis, Montgomery Clift was more than a great actor. It was a reminder that being gentle, emotional, and true to yourself could be powerful, even in a world that often rewards the loudest voices. Number 6. Humphrey Bogart. Elvis Presley had great respect for Humphrey Bogart. He saw him as the kind of man who could take over a room without raising his voice. Bogart had a calm, steady presence that never felt forced. In movies like Casablanca and The Maltese Falcon, he played tough men with sharp minds and quiet hearts. Elvis admired that mix, strength with depth and power with restraint. Bogart roles were often serious, but there was always a hidden layer of emotion beneath the surface. He was not just a hero. He was a thinker, a fighter, and a man who had seen pain. Elvis connected with that. He believed Bogart characters were real because they carried scars, just like he did. Elvis also loved Bogart's voice, low, slow, and full of confidence. He studied how Bogart spoke, how he paused, how he used silence. Elvis used these same tricks later in his own performances and interviews. He knew that sometimes saying less made people listen more. Even Bogart's style had an effect on Elvis. The suits, the slicked back hair, the cool look. Elvis picked up these elements and made them his own. He wanted to have that same balance of elegance and edge. To Elvis, Humphrey Bogart was the perfect example of classic cool. He showed that real charm comes from being calm under pressure, speaking with purpose, and always staying true to who you are, no matter what the world expects. Number 7. Clark Gable. Clark Gable was one of Elvis Presley's earliest and strongest inspirations. Known as the King of Hollywood, Gable had the kind of charm, confidence, and class that Elvis dreamed of as a young boy. He admired how Gable could be both strong and romantic, bold and respectful, a real gentleman on and off the screen. In films like Gone with the Wind, Gable played men who were fearless, clever, and full of heart. He walked tall, spoke clearly, and had a smile that lit up the room. Elvis watched those movies closely. He admired how Gable held himself with grace and pride, never looking unsure or nervous. That kind of quiet power influenced Elvis's own style as he grew older. Gable's love scenes also left a mark on Elvis. He was smooth but never fake. Women loved him, and men respected him, something Elvis deeply wanted for himself. Gable showed that being romantic did not mean being weak. It meant being brave enough to care. Elvis also liked Gable's background. Though he became a Hollywood legend, Gable came from a working-class family, just like Elvis. He had to work hard to get noticed. That story gave Elvis hope. To Elvis, Clark Gable was the image of the man he wanted to become: stylish, respected, deeply human, and always in control. Gable was not just an actor he liked. He was a model of elegance, strength, and charm that stayed with Elvis forever.